Hey everyone, I'm delighted to be joined by Hamza Jafri from Pakistan. Hamza is a guitar player, composer, music director, and educator. He's played a leading role in expanding access to music education in Pakistan. Hamza, you've been leading music programs in different capacities for over a decade, from academies to after school programs to national music institutions. What, in your experience, is the general attitude towards music education in Pakistan?
I first founded a school in 2009 in Lahore. And at that time, there were hardly any institutes or sort of like music coaching centers, as you will. So the response was overwhelming, and so many people wanting to more just wanting to know how to play. So, I mean, one thing is going into music education, very seriously, formally, Another is just wanting to learn like the basics. So there's definitely more of people just wanting to, you know, uh, get to start playing. And I guess that because, people also don't have much of an idea what learning music entails, what's going to happen with all the theory that you learn. And so it's just more the excitement that, I want to get going with music, you know. So which is good. It's good to have that excitement in people, and then I guess that some percentage of people, once they start learning, they see that okay, this there's this mathematical side to music, and so if they have that interest, so then that sparks them to move forward with that, take the lead with that, and go deeper into the education side of it.
Hamza, you mentioned the theory and the mathematical side. It's common in institutions and music programs in Pakistan to find, say, the sitar and the piano being offered and taught together. Why do you think it's important to offer an integrative music curriculum? And do you find that certain instruments and certain music traditions are perceived as more relevant or valuable over the other?
Let's say as a Pakistani, I would want that our traditional music is followed and preserved and archived and developed, because there hasn't been much work done on that. So, I mean, let's say sitar comes under Eastern classical, like South Asian classical music, and there's been a lot of work done on that, especially in India. But let's say in Pakistan, you have our like ethnic instruments, regional instruments, and people who use them to play folk music. And every region has a different style, where the rhythms are different, the melodies are different, and then the folklore behind it, and that all needs a lot of work, preservation and archiving and documenting. So there's a lot to do there. So I personally would, want to pursue that. I've been doing some work on that as well, and I think it's important that here in Pakistan that we run these programs which get people interested and create awareness about like our traditional instruments and the folklore behind them, the stories behind them, and also the crafting. How these instruments are crafted and the people who are making them, the story behind it, and also kind of documenting that. I think that's also very important. So let's say if you wanted to learn the piano, that you can find tons of stuff on YouTube, you know, and so I mean, you could enroll informally. You could also learn completely informally, completely for free, off the internet. So, and that's great. And I would want to see the same thing with all like our other traditional instruments in Pakistan. So there's a lot of work that's needed there, and I've been making some efforts, and there are other institutions as well that are making that effort. So hopefully, in the coming years, we'll see a lot of development on that side, and people will start taking interest in those instruments and start playing and learning those instruments.
Yeah. Speaking of your efforts, you work a lot with students from across different social backgrounds and economic backgrounds. The documentary Liari Notes captures this side of your work really effectively. What have these experiences taught you about the importance of music education in society?
I'll talk more about the basics, which is just the importance of music. You know, um, um, you can, you cannot have, you can, let's say, not be formally educated or even basic education music, but still start playing, start singing, you know, gain interest and start listening to music. So that, I mean, it has a very positive effect on the community. I mean, all the positive effects of engaging in music. So you see those, it gives people it opens their mind. It makes them imaginative, creative, and above all, it creates peace within. And I think that's very important. I've worked a lot in Leari, like as you've seen in the film. So people are very interesting, and it's great to see young kids interested in playing, performing, and especially in Leari, there's like this huge rap scene now that has developed.
Yeah.
The movie is from probably maybe more than 10 years ago. And at that time, people were a lot into like guitar and,
Yeah.
guitar and keyboards and stuff. And they also their traditional instrument, which is the banjo, the Balochi banjo. A lot of people play that in Leari. And you even have a couple of independent music clubs where people go and learn the tabla, dholak, and how to play the Balochi banjo. So they're keeping their tradition alive. And at the same time, now rap has become really huge in Leari. And you have some amazing rap artists.
Finally, Hamza, looking back at your work as an educator and program director, what do you think the global music education community can learn from your experience in Pakistan?
My experience has been that myself, even, I haven't formally learned music. I started playing when I was 13. I started playing the guitar, and at that time, there was no internet, there were no music schools around. And so I would on my bike like ride to the Urdu bazaar and like search through tons and tons of like secondhand books and magazines and stuff and maybe find like something on music and take that home and just like completely just ride with that, see where it would take me. So us friends, we would teach each other, learn from each other. We'd watch like music videos on VHS still tapes and see, oh, the guy's holding the guitar in this position, that position. What could it be? So it was exciting, sort of figuring music out. So my the method in which I learned was kind of discovery. So you had to go and discover it. You had to go search it out and figure it out.
Yeah.
So the whole figuring out process was very exciting, very, whenever you'd find something, you'd feel that sense of accomplishment at the same time. And I feel that that might be missing when you're going for a music class, where everything is laid out for you. Okay, it's like this, and there's a person explaining it to you. It probably feels like school for the
Yeah.
kids. So like you're sitting in a you're sitting in school at a math class or a geography class, and then you get excited about music, and then your parents send you off to a music class, and you kind of feel the same sort of method happening over there.
Yeah.
So I feel that probably starts killing some of the excitement. And so I think that it needs to be uh, taught in a fun way, and there should be some element of discovery, you know, uh, so that when you do something, you feel that sense of achievement. And then, as you know, music is all about like feelings, emotions. That's what you're really doing. You're expressing yourself through your instrument, you know. So and if you're getting to do that with from the get-go, from right from the start, So I feel that it helps you develop your style. It helps you connect with the music better. You start to own it, it becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
So I think that, things like that are really interesting to see how someone would approach an instrument, what they would do with it, how rather than someone telling them, okay, this is how it's done. You see, the minute you tell someone, who doesn't know anything about something, you tell them, okay, it's done like this. So automatically you've kind of imprinted your method, your style, your everything onto that person. So for them to then, once and then they keep piling up on that, for them to then find their own direction and style and their own connection, you know, then there's like a maybe to it. There's a chance it might happen, might not happen. So that's one thing that I'm always very concerned about with music education, and I work at the National Institute, and my contribution towards like what the students are learning there is always I'm going into classrooms and telling them, look, you need to connect. You need to close your eyes and kind of soul search while you're playing music. Like, okay, the teacher will give you your exams and your theory lessons and whatnot. But I want you to think about, why are you playing music? Why do you like music? Why do you play it? What does it make you feel when you listen to this piece? What is it that it does for you? Is it doing anything for you? So I think that's very important. Only then you're going to actually see stuff, like students flourish and music, developing further and something beautiful coming out of it.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Hamza.